Well, Shadowlands has ended, at the least in terms of its grand story, as there are still 2 more campaign chapters to see. I see most of the community, yet again, frustrated by a WoW cinematic, but if you will allow me to say, I liked it. But let's begin with the negative sides. The biggest complaint I will have about the cinematic was its length. It was too short, but the thing is, it has been determined a week ago that the supposed end cinematic of FULCRUM, the first ones, would be about 1.5 minutes. When I learned that, I adjusted my expectations accordingly. What I expected was a fast cinematic ending with a cliffhanger about the future of Warcraft, just like the ending of Untitled and the Eternal Palace.
Now, mortals, follow me into the abyss. All eyes shall be open.
Did I get what I expected? With every second of it. Also, the Red Star hasn't opened yet, and as always, we were the ones who defeated the Titan plus being. Yeah, and Azeroth didn't undergo a drastic chain of events to reshape the world for 10.0. Those were the downsides of the cinematic in my opinion, mainly actually the problem of being anticlimactic, a problem that has persisted since Battle for Azeroth, sadly. Yes, I agree with you all that the big revelation or event we deserve to see pushed away yet again, and you are right to be frustrated as much as I did. But it was actually about the great cliffhanger at the end. We see Zoval's memories and the moment of his imprisonment in the mall, the past and present combined. Finally, we witnessed the last conversation between the Eternal Ones and Zoval. And the thing is, while Winter Queen and Archon were furious because Zoval failed his duty as the Arbiter,
You have betrayed your duty as Arbiter, and shall be bound forevermore. Your madness has threatened the cycle of life and death entire.
meanwhile, Sire Denatrius was kinda disappointed, but not because of Zoval's betrayal.
You could have sought another way, brother. Imagine what we could have accomplished together.
He was like, we could achieve greater things than you could imagine. Pity. This implies that Sire's plan dwarfs the goal of Zoval, which I have been saying for months.
If only you had just obeyed.
For the Primus, well,
Why, Zoval? What drove you to this end?
Primus overshadows Zoval, almost with a malicious intent, questions Zoval with hatred. Also, as you see, Zoval wasn't covered with domination runes at that time, as Primus has stated before. He was the one who carved domination upon Zoval's flesh. This way, Primus gets rid of Zoval for good, because we defeated the jailer who had a fetish for dominating others. Now, get to the actual cliffhanger of the cinematic. We defeated the big bad guy and we saved our reality. But as you can see, Zoval was aware of the threat of the void, and the other Eternal Ones chained him down when he tried to claim their sigils by force. Great parallels with Sargeras in terms of story. Also, Zoval revealed that he pulled the power he needed from the Forge of Souls. It is located beneath Icecrown Citadel, which was built by using the blood of Yogg-Saron, Saronite. I have speculated about the connection between ICC, Yogg-Saron and Torghast before, and I will put the article link into the description. The first thematic was beyond what I expected. Zovaal pulled the word soul of Azeroth beneath Askar's citadel. This explains why Helm of Domination had to be broken at the top of ICC back in the opening cinematic of the expansion. It was the direct link between Azeroth, Shadowlands, and the Sepulchre itself.
All to claim the power slumbering within your world. The soul of Azeroth, wounded, vulnerable, yet teeming with potential. Potential that I will use to eradicate this flawed reality.
Also, do not forget that ICC was built by Serenite, ordered by the Natrizim with the approval of Sire Denatrius himself. So, we can almost say that Zovaal was the pawn of both Sire Denatrius and Yogg-Saron throughout this entire time. Not directly, but remember Arbiter's heart being a crater.
Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it.
Also,
Forces unseen.
about the ending, a good cliffhanger for the 10.0 announcement, which is sadly a month away. I don't know how I can wait until April 19th, but at this point, I am sure Zovaal talked about the Void, it's coming, and everything has happened so far, gone according to Void's plan. I sincerely hope that they left N'Zoth and the Reforged World announcements for 10.0, because WoW needs some huge changes fundamentally, from its world into the overall design itself. Blizzard recently announced the unthinkable and almost removed the barrier between factions. So, I expect a couple of big announcements from 10.0, both in terms of lore and the general design of the game. Now, it's time to talk about a great foreshadowing within Chronicles Volume 3. In that book, we have learned that Arthas's goal, while he was the Lich King, was to protect Azeroth from external threats in a twisted way. Can we take a look back to it for a second? A world ruled by the undead would have no more injustice, no more wars, no more mortal flaws. Perhaps most importantly to the Lich King, he believed his scourge would be far more capable of defending Azeroth against the threats that would try to conquer it. He had observed the awakening of Khotun and the Burning Legion's attempts to launch another attack on Azeroth. Neither the demons nor the powers of the Void would rest until they controlled the world. A fractured world, constantly beset by skirmishes between the Alliance and the Horde, simply would not be prepared for another incursion, and this was what Zovaal wanted to do against the Void. He saw the divide in the design of the first ones. Each cosmic force fights one another, while the greatest threat remains unharmed, the Void. The Light, with our help, managed to remove the biggest threat against the Void in the universe, the Burning Legion, and imprisoned Sargeras, while, in reality, Light is meant to become Void in the end. So Light dominance means Void dominance. So, even if we get a real and light-bound themed expansion for 10.0, it will inevitably turn out to be a Void arc, because by its nature, Light is meant to become Void. And do not forget, Light, considering the example of Viral again, was pretty aggressive when we last checked it out. Also,
You preserve that which is doomed.
You all say that the cinematic doesn't make sense and all that stuff, but I have already found some proper connections and foreshadowing, haven't I? And now, I will give you another example. Have you read the notes of FULCRUM in Zeret Mortis? I doubt you did. So let me read a certain passage from his notes. Don't worry, I won't read the entire passage, as his notes are too long, but only the necessary part. If scheme was thwarted, then why is my mind so ill at ease? Because I have seen how fragile the pattern is, how delicate the scales that keep the six forces in balance, and if the jailer, in his act of malevolence, left behind but the most imperceptible of cracks in that pattern, then I fear what is tiny now will only grow, until the balance itself is prone to be shattered by another force applying relentless pressure. I pray that the first ones anticipated such an eventuality, that they would leave measures in place to preserve their grand design. Unless their design was never meant to endure, and that is the possibility that haunts me. So, you see, according to FULCRUM's understanding and the truth Zoval realized, the design of the first ones is meant to reset itself. Maybe each reality in the first ones created so far began and ended with the final clash of light and void, because, according to Titan's chronicle, the universe came to be with the clash of light and the void. So, while the first ones are suspiciously absent, they put the fail-safes in place to reset the system when the current cycle nears its end.
Your coming was foretold in the rings. The long circle is nearly complete. The Great Conjunction is upon us! A cosmos divided will not survive. What is to come? Save you from what is to come.
So, what is this thing that both terrified N'Zoth and Zoval? From one perspective, and the more likely option, you can say that N'Zoth warned us against Zoval and death, while Zoval meant the hour of twilight, the time of the void. But what if there is something more? What if both Zoval and N'Zoth warned us against the same threat? What about that seventh, mysterious cosmological power? The seventh, COVETS, what the sixth hold fast, the FULCRUM waivers, all will be undone. We will talk about this and every other breadcrumb I mentioned here in the future videos. Because Void is coming, finally, if there won't be an even greater threat. Void is the ultimate, all-consuming one. And for this reason, I am so hyped for the rest of the Shadowlands, because the story hasn't completed yet. For example, in this week's chapter, we have learned that even deciphering the language of the first ones can protect us against domination magic. And there are still 2 more chapters to see, and in 9.2.5 there will be the epilogue Judgment, most likely about Sylvanas and Tyrande, and hopefully we can learn more about Elune during that storyline. For the cinematic itself, I would score it with 6 out of 10. It wasn't as good as Legion, but also it should be compared with BFA ending as well. BFA 1 is still the worst, as you see, even though being too short, this ending cinematic provided us lots of little details to think about. So, We have much to cover in future videos. Thanks for watching. If you liked or disliked the cinematic, please let me know in the comments why. And if you liked the video, consider subscribing and sharing. That would help me a lot. Until next week,